Hello, this is Marty Yeddington, and today I'd like to talk to you about the time I fought not one, but a couple of different bears on the Appalachian Trail. It's an amazing story, and most people don't believe it. To give you a preface, I'm an old Eagle Scout, and I've backpacked and camped at many places around the country. I was living in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is back in about 1984, and I decided I wanted to hike about 60 miles of the Appalachian Trail. So I had a friend of mine drop me off at Clingman's Dome, which is a lookout point on the trail. And I hiked from there down the trail. The first night I got to a lean-to. The lean-tos on the trail are three-sided, and they have a fireplace on one side and then steel mesh in front. And there's doors, which are steel posts around a mesh and chained on the top and the bottom. It's a single door, but chained on both the top and the bottom. So the first night I was at a lean-to where there were quite a number of people, and we all ate together and talked, and they told me how many bears there were causing problems on the trail. This is about September of that year. And so I was a little worried, but I slept and I went further down the trail the next day. So the next day I came to the campsite, the lean-to where I was going to stay later in the afternoon. And in front of the lean-to was a mother bear and her cub. This is a black bear, mother bear and her cub walking around in front of the lean-to. So I waited for her to go away. A guy was coming from another direction. I stopped him, motioned to him to stop and wait. And we waited about 15, 20 minutes, and finally the bear went off with her cub into the woods. So we got inside the lean-to, and I changed the top half of the door, but not the bottom part. And then I did something really stupid, which I still can't believe I did something so stupid. I started cooking a set of bacon on my portable camp stove. Well, the smell initially brought the black bear back looking for food, and she tried to get into the lean-to by first looking if she could push through it. No. Then they have big claws. She started trying to dig out rocks, but that didn't work. Then she started to push her nose between the door and the frame, and she pushed it wider and wider and wider. And she was only about 3 feet from me. The other guy panicked and jumped up on a bunk in the back of the lean-to, and I thought, oh my God, if she gets in here, she's gonna maul us to death. And she was opening it wider and wider, almost to her shoulders, and the chain on the top was still holding, but I thought, oh my God, she's gonna break in here. And I was scared to death, thought it was the end of my life. Fortunately, there were some steel posts there, and I grabbed one, and then I jammed her in the forehead, as hard as I could. And she yowled and backed out and started walking around in front of the lean-to, shaking her head. So I really hurt her. And then she came back to try again, but by this time I knew what to do, and this other guy did too. So we were poking the posts through the screen, and it worked. She wandered off, and we were kind of hyper, but we didn't have any more problems that evening. So the next day I'm hiking down the trail to the next place, and I got there without any problem. And what happened was I carefully locked myself in, and then I decided to cook something in the fireplace. And I started a fire in the fireplace, and damned if a snake that was living in the chimney doesn't come right down into my lap, and I jump out of the way and the snake goes out. So I cooked and I was okay, and then I go to bed, but it was still kind of light out, and a herd of wild boars comes by, and they start digging in the dirt outside. And I thought, oh my God, I'm glad I'm not out there. But they didn't bother me. They left me alone. So I went to sleep. And I'd heard that from people coming the other way that there were bears down at the next place I was going to stay. So I cut a big walking stick to see if that would be helpful for walking and maybe self-defense. And I went about 20 miles down to the next place the next day. Had to cross over a little mountain, and I got down there in the afternoon. I was out of water, a place called Spence Field, which I'd been to before. And so I knew that there was a water stream just about a quarter mile down the trail. So I left my pack inside a lean-to, locked it up, and went down with my canteen. And I got water, and I'm coming back, and what do I see? Oh my God, I can't believe it. There's another mother bear and her cub. It had to be different than the last one because I was pretty far from the last place. And she's trying to get into the lean-to to get my pack. And now I'm outside, and the only thing I have is my canteen. So I'd heard with black bears, I wouldn't try this with a grizzly, but I'd heard with black bears, if you throw stones at them and yell, you might scare them away. So I picked up a bunch of stones, and I start tossing them at her. And she turns to look at me. I thought, oh my God, I better charge her. I can't look like I'm running at this point. So I ran towards her and started pelting her with more stones. And sure enough, she ran off into the woods, and her cub went up a tree. So I got into the lean-to, unlocked it, got inside, and when I was all jittery, I said, oh my God, I'm not going to stay here another night. I can't take this. So I got my pack on. I looked around. I didn't see anything. And remember, I'd already hiked 20 miles, a tough 20 miles that day. But I had so much adrenaline that I opened the door and I ran 5 miles down the trail. It was about 10 miles out. And I ran down that trail 5 miles until I was sure there was nothing following me. And then I slowed to a walk. And I got down to the exit area where there was a little campsite. And I didn't believe it. There were actually black bears in the campsite, but they left me alone. So I got to my car and left. So I'd seen more wildlife on that journey than I'd ever seen in my life, honestly, and all the backpacking trips I've gone on, even though I've seen other bears. And I was just fortunate, I guess, that I didn't back down and I survived this. And this story's in my book on survival. You can survive anything, and in the notes you'll see information about that. So that's my story. Thanks for listening.